Hey, uh, it's been a while. A really long while. um, and I apologize. I really, really apologize. Let's talk. I feel like this is long overdue. First off, I want to apologize for not releasing this update video sooner. It was supposed to be uploaded like a couple weeks back, but you know, sometimes life moves faster than your own script. And sometimes you gotta take care of unexpected shit before you prioritize stuff like YouTube. Like I said, I don't want to get into any semantics. I just want to dive right into it. So let's get into it. Where have I been? Well, I've been doing a lot of stuff. Number one, adulting sucks. Adulting really sucks. I feel like a lot of people, just in general, like not just in my sphere in the community, but just like even in my friend group, have the benefit of having their family to lean back on. And unfortunately, I'm very much independent. I live on my own. I pay my own bills. I maintain my own place, and that had to kind of take priority for a while. I like to think is understandable because when you're kind of the captain of your own ship, you kind of have no choice but to take care of everything else before recreational stuff like YouTube. Other than, having to, maintain my own life, with work and such, I've also been trying to save money to prepare for moving, which was also a huge, huge contributor to why there was a huge lack of content, because I was prioritizing trying to get moved out by the end of the summer. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but I was, I was packing everything. Thankfully, I didn't pack up my PC setup or my VCR, my multiple VCRs more so. Pardon me, this is completely unscripted with the exception of some notes. But the point is, I've been saving up to try to move, not just out of country, which I'll get to that, but I want to, just downsize for the time being. I want to make sure that, I had as much money as possible in my safety net for any emergencies and such, as well as just any other things, like, if you know, if you're in your, early to mid-20s and you live on your own, you know what I mean. I have been working on devlogs, don't get me wrong. I know that, lately the series has been pretty dormant lately, particularly because of, everything going on. But truth be told, I pretty much finished 90% of filming devlogs back in April, or as early as April this year. I had a lot of time constraints, and those really, really screwed up a lot of my scheduling for filming devlogs. So I had to rush filming about 90% of all the scenes, basically 100% of all the Yusuf office scenes. And I'm not gonna lie, that really burnt me out. Like, I'm surprised I even got the Elstree music video out. Because, let alone filmed it, because like I said, time constraints, I only had a set amount of time to really finish filming in the space that I was using to film. So I really had to make sure I got everything down that I wanted to film. And it really burnt me out to the point where, like, I almost felt like, even though I went back on the footage and realized, oh, this is perfectly fine, in the moment I was just so burnt out to the point where, like, I was almost scared that the footage that I used was unsalvageable, that it was too rushed, but it turns out it was completely fine. Regardless, sometimes, imposter syndrome kicks in and, fills your head with a bunch of doubt, but I can at least confirm that, all the footage is more than usable. In fact, I'd say I did amazingly in the time constraints I had. Would I have liked to have a little bit more time to film? Absolutely, but this is very much a low budget kind of thing. Everything is funded directly out of pocket, with the exception of, my YouTube earnings, the Patreon earnings and such, which even then, I always intended to really give back all my earnings to the people who helped me with the project, such as my voice actors, like Quickslash, and people who are helping me with 3D modeling and such. Like I said, 90% of all the scenes are finished filming, which pretty much constitutes every single office scene. So I'm very proud of that. The only issue is that I felt really burnt out, particularly with the anomaly segments. Now, I get it. The anomalies are kind of my bread and butter. They're the videos that get all the views, and they're pretty much the main, the main course of what people go for in terms of my channel. And for a while, I was just so sapped of any motivation and, and any of my creative juices to really create proper horror content, because truth be told, if you've been subscribed to me, or even before We'll Be Right Back, I never completely intended to do horror content. I mainly just intended to do liminal and, off-putting, analog stuff, more aesthetic than horror. So horror has never been entirely my forte. I mean, if you watch We'll Be Right Back in general, it's very, let's be honest, it's pretty horny. I love doing it, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not like the Walton Files or, Mario Classified. So I feel like I had to really brush up on my horror content in order to really, get back in the groove. Thankfully, the next anomaly is completely finished. The next anomaly segment for devlogs, and I'll even give you a little sneak peek right here. So take a look.
$50.
Alright, so let's get into the uncomfortable topics. If you don't want to hear about the political jargon and, all that stuff, feel free to skip ahead. I'll leave a time code. But for those who, care about me on that level, I'm just going to say it outright. Everything that I was afraid of happening back in January, even November during the election, everything that I was worried about happening is basically happening in America. It's very hard being trans, just not just on a social level, but even on a legal level now. I don't really want to get into too much about this, because I'm sure, especially the queer and trans folks watching right now, I'd be preaching to the choir if I were to get into a whole rant about it. But even if you're not trans or queer, if you're just, the average person who isn't, completely conservative or MAGA, it's very hard being in America right now. Going back to, the money thing, saving up, it's been very hard to save money, because, the prices of things are going up, and, just the tariffs and all, not just inflation, but, the tariffs themselves as well. I'm still holding on to the RV plan. I was actually ready to leave back in January, believe it or not. I had most of all my essentials packed up. The thing is, a lot of people in my close circle, as well as even my family, convinced me otherwise to stay and kind of, play it by ear. And I'm not going to pretend that I don't regret leaving. I do regret, to a degree. Obviously, I'd be living out of an RV if I haven't, gotten an apartment by now, but I feel like just in Canada, I'd be way safer right now, even though Canada has its own issues, of course. And, it's just very hard, being me in this country, in this time and place right now. There's so much going on that people, my own fans even, were denying that was going to happen. That, everything's a hoax, you're overreacting, I can't believe he drank the Kool-Aid. And now we're in the thick of it. I mean, God, we're in a government shutdown right now, even. And, there's more of a military presence against, citizens, not just immigrants, but citizens in general now. It's scary. It's very scary. And, the end game is going to be Canada. I am going to be, moving to Canada eventually, but, as of right now, given my financial situation, I really can't afford it properly. And, one can say, oh, I was never, prepared for it, but truth be told, I had all my essentials ready, and I was ready to make the gradual transition. Would I have perhaps been illegal in Canada for a while? Yeah, and that's partly why I'm glad I didn't leave to a degree, because, I would be in maybe even a shittier situation in America, because I'd, be, a target on that level. So, in terms of moving to Canada, I'm going the quote-unquote proper route. It's kind of hard to say there is a proper route anymore in terms of America, but Canada, it's difficult to a degree, but it's still doable to move from America to Canada. So those plans are still on, but at the moment I'm focusing on just moving somewhere else in America right now, temporarily, downsizing my life a bit, and just trying to save as much money as I can while hoping for the best, and hope that, there is an America by the time I want to leave. With that all being said, let's just get into the game plan of what I'm planning in terms of the channel.
What is the state of the art like?
So, devlogs is still completely happening. No worries on that. New episode should be out in about a week or two. Also, happy anniversary to We'll Be Right Back in general. I think it's been, 3 years so far? Which is insane to me, because it feels like just yesterday I released the Rugrats end credits. And now here we are with, one of my first ever, projects with a budget. I mean, let's be fair here, this is a big deal for me, and I don't want to get cold feet. I want to see this through, and you guys are going to see this through. I'm going to make sure of it, especially because I have no choice, because I filmed the damn thing, at least all the, majority of the development log segments, the meat and potatoes, so I'm kind of too knee-deep to really back out now, so we might as well just finish what we started, right? With that being said, I might start also dabbling in other kinds of content on the side to, avoid burnout, because I feel like a huge reason why I burnt out so bad is because We'll Be Right Back was one of, if not the only thing I was doing on this channel for so long, I mean, there was a period where I was even uploading multiple anomaly videos a day back in the, season 1 days of We'll Be Right Back. So I feel like I just need something else alongside devlogs. I certainly won't go back to, the 6 projects shit like I did, maybe 2 years ago. But I definitely need something else to keep me sane and to prevent me from burning out with my main project. So you might see some more, analysis stuff, maybe some commentary, not commentaries on, Mutahar or, Pyro or any of that shit. But, I've been thinking of doing maybe, a low-key podcast with some people in my circle, maybe some other creators. Maybe I'll go back to angry reviewer movies, where, I'll take a look at the angry video game nerd movie and, Nostalgia Critics movies and all that stuff. But, the end goal is just trying to get that momentum back in making content. So, with that being said, thank you all for watching, thank you all for being so patient, especially the Patreon and YouTube members, they have been continuously donating to me despite the content being incredibly lacking, especially this year. So, with that being said, happy 3-year anniversary to We'll Be Right Back, and, thank you all for still sticking by me. I really appreciate you guys, I really can't understate that. It means a lot to me, genuinely. Just the fact that I have such a supportive community under my wing who looks out for me just as much as I try and look out for your entertainment. I never had anything like this before. So, whenever I get those chances, whenever I get those opportunities, I really try and, grip onto them and really try to, give my thanks to people who got me to where I am. I also reached 12,000 subscribers, over 12,000 recently. It still hasn't hit me properly that I hit 10,000. And I don't think I got a proper chance to really enjoy it. So, let's try and enjoy it. All of us. With new content and, new videos coming soon. I really want to give back to you all. So, without dragging this on any further, thank you. And I'll see you soon. Peace.